If you're there during July and August, you melt. So he leaves and takes a couple months off and then comes back and crushes it. So let's give a big round of applause to Coach Carl Rizzuto talking about objections.
Thank you.
Get him, buddy.
How is everyone? Good, great. I want to share with you a couple of different things. Today we're talking, or I was asked to talk about handling difficult objections. So I want to share with you some of the things that work through my head that help me get through objections when I get them, and also share with you some of the things that many times cause us to even get the objection. But first off, I want you to always think that with a positive mindset, if we look at things the right way, we'll get what we want while we're helping our clients. So I look at an objection as really an opportunity. That's all it is. And the reason being is an objection you get from a client is simply an unanswered question. And you got to keep that in your mind. So when they tell you, as an example, I don't want to come down on my price, what they're saying is, I don't understand the market, or I don't understand or see why you want me to do that. When they're telling you, we don't want you to come over, let's say you're prospecting, or we don't want to relist, it's because there's something unanswered that we need to answer for them and help guide them through the process. So one of the things I say is objections are good. The reason they're good, and I use this in my mindset, if they had no interest, if they truly had no interest in doing any business with us, they would simply say, no. 2 words, 1 word, 2 letters, no. But if they say, well, we don't want to do it because, or whatever the case is, that tells me, and this is how my mind works, it's an opportunity. So number 1, look at objections as an opportunity. And what we want to do is either show them, tell them, and inspire them to get to that next step. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is this. If there was no such thing as an objection, in other words, the government now outlawed objections. Okay? Some of us may say, well, that's pretty good. That would be terrible for your business. And the reason being is you would do less business because a certain segment of that business would go to the unskilled agents working within your market. So starting today, think of objections as a real positive, not as a negative. Now, as realtors, there's only 2 things. I mean, there's so many things that we do as agents. But there are really 2 things at the end of the day that really count. And this is how I guide my day, whether I'm prospecting or working at a particular property with an owner, going over a listing presentation, whatever it is. Always remember there are only 2 things that really count at the end of the day. Do you want to know what they are? Okay. Number 1, getting contracts signed. And number 2, finding people to sign them. Those are the only 2 things that matter. Okay? Would you agree that's true? I mean, yes, we got to establish rapport. We got to qualify them if they're buyers. We have to make sure they understand the market if they're selling their home. But the only 2 things that really matter at the end of the day is getting contracts signed and finding people to sign them. Now, the way you do that is by obviously communicating with them and talking to the people you know and the people that you don't know, but also overcoming the barrier, the natural barrier that may be in place. And that's through the objection handling scenario. So again, that objection mindset-wise, which will help you, is a positive and nothing less than that. Our goal as realtors is to get what we want by helping them get what they want. Because I know that and I listed many homes over the years. I continue to do so. I've never had a client say to me, we're going to pay you up front. Have any of you had that happen? No. You only get paid when you get them what they want. So what we want to do as we're working on their objections, if there are objections, is inspire them, get them to that next step. So what I do many times in handling objections is I use other examples of other transactions. So I might say something like, Marie, Bruce, I understand how you feel. As a matter of fact, I had a scenario just like that about a week ago. And what happened was, we listed their property at $450,000. I suggested $450,000, and the property, we sold it for $452,000. However, previously they had it listed with someone else at $500,000. At the number that they wanted, the house sat on the market. See, what I want to do is help you move back to Arizona, get your home sold, and get your top dollar, and $450,000 is the way to do that. Just like I told these other folks. So use whatever it is, use other examples. Use examples of other transactions you are working on. Number two, starting today, think of yourself not only as a realtor, but think of yourself as a problem solver. Because that's what we really are. We're a problem solver. So whenever I'm on the phone and I'm talking to an expired or a FSBO, or I'm on a listing appointment, because that's where the money is, it's being on an appointment, or finding those people to get appointments, I'm thinking, what's the problem? The problem may be they got to sell this thing, but what's the problem? I got to figure out how to solve it. If I can give them a couple of really strong reasons to solve that issue, I'm going to get the appointment, or I'm going to get the listing, whatever the case may be. And there's been times where I didn't get the listing because I didn't follow that sequence. Okay? Now, how do you avoid, and how do you, not avoid, how do you eliminate objections? How many of you would like to eliminate objections? No one? Okay, a bunch of you. The best way of eliminating an objection, which again is nothing more than an unanswered question, is by having the best presentation out there. You have to have the best presentation. So if you're going on a listing presentation, you have to be thinking in your head that you're going to get the listing. What I generally do is I give my listing presentation before I go out there, or parts of it, because I practice it. Then when I go to the appointment, I have on the passenger seat of my car my goals for the month, because I have an annual goal and a monthly goal. And I look at that goal sheet, which tells me the number of listings I need to get for the month, just before I walk in that door. And if I need to get 9, and I got, let's say, 6, I know I got to get 3, and there's only 5 days left. Okay? Whatever the number is. The number could be 2, and I got 1. Okay? So now I'm saying to myself, handle the objections if there are any. Don't leave without the listing. Because the way my company pays me, it's only when I get the listing and it sells and it closes and the title company check clears. That's how I get paid. So when I'm visiting with you, my mindset is I'd rather be at home with my wife, but bottom line, I'm here to get the listing. So now when I get those objections, if I get them, because if the presentation is ironclad, there should be very few, if any, I need to handle those objections. So number one, have the finest listing presentation you can. Don't wing it. Any of you remember Liberace, the piano player? Okay. When I was a realtor in New Jersey, the title companies used to take us to dinner and shows all the time. Back then they were allowed to do that. And I was near Atlantic City, so they'd take us to the casinos and see Liberace. And he'd come out and he'd have like $5,000 worth of rings on his fingers, and he'd go to the ladies, "Oh, you like my rings?" He was very flamboyant. And they'd all like, "God, oh, look at those rings." And he'd say, See what you get when you practice? Okay, and he was, of course, talking about the piano. But bottom line, have the best presentation, know it, practice it. You can't afford not to. Number 2, don't be salesy. However, speak with authority, speak with conviction. Don't be salesy, but speak with authority and speak with conviction. Number 3, use embedded commands. Get used to using them. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, once you sign the contract, I'm confident you're going to feel good with the services I provide as we work to sell your home. That's what you want, right? So use embedded commands. Learn some of the basic embedded commands. Feel good. Sign the contract. Trust me, etc. Number 4, let the client or prospect see. Because again, if it's prospecting, it's not a client yet. Let the client or prospect see that you're a strong and highly effective realtor. They don't have to like you, that helps, but they need to know that you're effective. And there's a difference between being efficient and being effective. So you're a highly effective realtor. In other words, you accomplish things. How many here have been to a doctor? Probably everyone, right? Do you notice when you go to a doctor, you may ask him or her a couple of questions, but you don't question them? Am I correct? Yes? You don't say, well, why do you want to do that? Why don't we do this instead? Okay? You don't. When you go to a doctor, again, you may have questions for the doctor, but you don't, I want you to remember this, you don't question them, you have questions for them perhaps. The reason is they have a certain persona because of their position. Would you agree? It may not be their presentation, it may just be their position. Unfortunately, as realtors, we don't have that just because we're realtors. That's the bad news. The good news is we can earn it. And by having a strong skill of communicating and understanding what it is that you want to share with them, the market, what you're going to do to help them accomplish their goals, you're going to earn that persona, which is going to help you get less or no objections. And that's what's going to get you to that next step. So that presentation is key. Another point, and this is a very, very important point, and this is whether you're on the phone or you're on the listing appointment or working with the buyer for that fact, is you want to always take control without being controlling. When you take control without being controlling, you're going to win every time, and the good news is when you win, they win. Okay? And all of that comes from, as Liberace says, from practicing. So take control without being controlling. The other good thing is that there aren't a zillion objections. Always remember there's only a few. It's price, commission rate. Prices are too low, we're going to wait. Why didn't you show the house when it was listed? Where were you? That type of thing. All you realtors are alike. But there may be 10, 15 objections. So all you got to know is those 10 or 15 objection handlers. That's a real exciting news. And what you want to do is practice them. And at the summit here, this is a great opportunity to pick up role play partners. I would role play 4 to 5 days a week for about 10 years straight, 7:30 in the morning. And that helped me become really strong in objection handling and presentation and everything else. So don't discount the role play. And this is the perfect place to find those people to role play. Smile a lot when you're on that presentation. And I learned this from Tom. I met Tom maybe 15, 16 years ago. It was in Miami. And I didn't, I never met Tom before. And I said, "Oh, are you Mike?" And he laughed at me, because remember, he was like 15 years younger. He said, "No, I'm Tom." So anyway, we had this great session. I learned a ton of stuff. But he said to me, "You know what? You have to smile more." Because I was so serious, and I was doing pretty darn good. And I thought, are these new people here? And like within about 20 minutes, I realized I have so much to learn. And what I did was I became totally coachable. Totally coachable. And my production, although it was good, just jumped immediately because I did what he told me to do. Because there's no motivation to tell you to do the wrong thing. So when all else fails and you're on that presentation, then you say to them, "Bruce, Marie, do you think I could," pause, "sell your home?" And if they say yes, one of three things are going to happen. They're either going to say yes, no, or we're not sure. If they say no, you got a problem. Okay? Houston, we have a problem here. But at least you could regroup. You could say, "Well, tell me more about that." If they say maybe, that tells you that there's an objection that you didn't cover. Because you can't, always remember, you can't overcome an objection unless you know what it is. So you ask them to tell you what's holding you back. And if they say yes, why don't we move forward? The other issue is we need to close them. We can't rely on them to close us. I want to end this by telling you that one of the greatest things about our business is the unlimited potential. As a matter of fact, you could make so much money as a realtor that if there weren't so many people that weren't following the system, in other words, the programs, the government would probably make real estate commissions illegal because they think we're making too much. Okay, the average lowers that. So I want to leave you with the fact that there's an incredible amount of money to make in this business, and you're making the money while you're helping others. It's a great business to save a great amount of money and invest. And it's also an incredible place to be as long as you work on building your skills, working on your presentation, because again, that great presentation, zero objections, and finally, to perfect your performance. And thank you. Okay.
You have to explain this look. How do you get your glasses to do that?
Oh, I just...
You're like I took a photo of myself. You're like the nutty professor. That's awesome. Hey, how good was that? Can we give him a big round of applause? Good job, buddy. Good job. All right.